Sam.
Ooh, not yet. It's too early for that. I don't understand. It's just.
Do I click start? Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Start video too?
Yep,
Do
start
I-
video. That's how they see this.
It's a whole 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, Megan. Hey, dude.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
So this is like a meeting room. This is just the first floor. Wait till we go upstairs. And then yeah. We're not that late.
I just said I had to get caught.
And then. Lauren.
Yeah. That's me.
So should I go up to Jen? I want to reorder this.
What are, what do you need to order?
Order of contents.
Let me see. I want to read it over.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But you guys are using too much ink.
How much energy are we?
45 minutes.
Well, Get rid
I
of
need
that.
engagement. I'm gonna require it. So
Get
it's-
rid of that front
Good
page and put that
morning.
one up there, but the welcome page should be up here.
Yeah.
Just my idea, and then I like to break it down, because I was in profit share 1, and then I went back to profit share at the end of the book with that lady that I met, and I may need the
I didn't
enough.
get to hear suggestions, but I said, yeah, it's probably time.
And then I found these on the under the leadership tab. Community investment. But anyhow, that I have to confirm that appointment at 4 today. But yeah, so I kind of have sections and notes on there. You just cut holes in it. I'm good to and create that front page. I'm good to move to it myself.
So are you saying this is the book that you're giving the woman today?
Yeah, these are due. Hey, how are you?
Hello, good. Hello.
Yeah. So that's what they made for me, and then I just, when I picked it up, I just worked through it. Say mahalo.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Today, but we can redo it and work on it. And so do you want this one back to give to the guy today?
Yeah, what, there's a thing up there where I.
She's got these in, so
Nice.
I'll
Skipping them out.
just bring-
Fresh off the
just
press.
Unbind it. And then,
We ordered them, I think, 2 months ago. That's how. Rachel, have you met Terrence?
Briefly at the open house,
Yes,
very,
we
very
did at the
briefly.
open
Yeah.
house. How are you?
Well, how about you?
That's why you look familiar, because I was like, I've seen that guy before. And Jeremy Tolley, you're.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he introduced you.
Yeah, you were in the gray suit, red
Yeah,
shirt.
sweat
Yep.
my butt off. Are they able to? I forgot about that.
They patched it.
I know,
I know they need to paint it. I don't know.
sanded and painted.
Yeah,
The cabinets look great.
I know. I really like to do that, but I hope that they have ones for the front desk. I texted Costas about it the other day. The front. Yeah, there's 2 white cabinets in the front desk. It should be also brown drawers.
Probably that's not enough you want.
Terrence, there's some donuts over there if you want to grab some.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Anyone else gonna have to do it?
And then just click on the screen, make sure you can go forward.
I don't see it.
What was that inside?
I don't see it sharing up here.
You're the only one that's on right now. You're not going to see the room from that view, I don't think. So just click share a second.
Right here.
Yep. And then click on the screen anywhere. And make sure that you can tab forward through the presentation. There you go. And then we'll check your desktop
Okay.
to make sure it looks good on the viewer's end.
Okay.
I've seen him around.
It looks like.
Yeah, I have my rudders. there. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. They are, morning, sir.
Good morning, how you doing?
Good, good.
Good to see you
You
again.
guys met? Okay, yeah.
I went down to the hill climb one year. A friend of mine brought his, at that time, girlfriend. And she was from England. And she wanted to, like the pagans park down into one section.
Yeah.
And that's in the shade and that's it. And she's like, well, why can't we park down there? No, you don't want to park. Well, and she just went on this whole tirade. Well, what's so special about the pagans? The pagans.
Why don't you go down and find out?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Why
goodness.
don't you go down and find out?
Yeah.
Let us know when you get back, if you get back.
When I first started riding, I got my license at 16. And I had my bike for about a year and my dad decided to buy one. So I took it out for a little ride. And I was at an intersection, Route 30 and 616.
Mhm.
So I was, because we lived in York, New Salem. So I was making a left-hand turn. And just as I made the turn, there's this big oil spot. Well, the bike went down. And it was just like a Yamaha 400. And he had these crash bars on it. So the bike went down, it spun around. I'm just holding on, and I went into a ditch and I'm just kind of like laying there, just like, okay, catch my bearings where I'm at. Next thing I know, the bike starts moving. The biggest freaking man I ever saw. Just picked this bike up. He's standing in a big leather jacket, just set the bike down. He threw his bike into the weeds. He's like, you all right, man? We got to take care of each other. We okay.
Pick a 600-700 pound motorcycle up,
Oh my gosh.
maybe
Yeah.
more, depending on what it was.
Well, mine was at that time probably only 400 pounds, but yeah. We had a guy, when I worked at Harley, there was a guy that he held, I don't know whether it was a US record, but he held the record for bench press. And we were trying to arrange for him to actually bench press a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because it was like 700 something pounds was a record that he had. And at that time, I think like a Heritage is like 7 something.
Yeah.
An Ultra is like 8 something.
Yeah.
So we were trying to make arrangements to get something set up so that he could bench press a motorcycle. And we could never work it out. They wanted to try to do
You
it.
have to somehow like get grab bar or something on it. And
Yep.
the problem with then the bike is like the weight distribution. Like, I don't know.
Yep. Some guys were looking at, can we build a jig that is actually like weight neutral and then just set the bike on it? So he could, it's just something. So, yeah,
What's a sports or an 83, like what are they weigh?
I think they're only like 300-400 pounds.
If you had like a bar and then you could just put one on. That'd be like,
Yep.
that'd be the way to go. That'd be a pretty awesome video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Watch
same
some guy
thing.
bench press two motorcycles. Did you go with React to get everything started?
Yep, so all that's complete. I'm all set up. The only
Did
thing,
lockbox training?
not training, but Gregory and I went over the lockbox.
Okay.
Yep, so I have that all downloaded on my phone.
I think you do have to attend something at React for lockbox.
Okay, because I know.
Might want to just verify with Doug, but
Perfect.
it might have been in that email too he sent. I can't remember.
Yeah, I know they had it scheduled for the 4th and then it had got canceled and rescheduled. So I think I do need to RSVP for the reschedule the
Yeah.
event. Let me check my email.
It's been so long since I've done it, I don't
Yeah, so
remember
this is
exactly what
the
it is. but I think-
certified.
I think they're just
Investor
teaching you how to
agent
use it.
specialist.
I mean, it's
And
pretty
this is back in the day.
self-explanatory,
You
but,
get through this book
Gotcha.
in 2 days.
and then if you have issues, who to call.
And
that
then
kind
this
of
is
Yeah.
just like the resource.
And that's for Century Lock, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
has like your seller
I think you do it at React. though.
questions, because they have.
And then, yeah, the
different-
home
back then
show
they had
or
proof
home
of
snap I
hardship. There was
have, a lot of the
stuff.
apps we have went through and downloaded. I think the next big one for me is
So
learning
that's what the
command
class
Yeah.
looks like.
Okay.
with Megan.
But if you can. go
Yes, yeah.
in
Go
class
and do
with
all
some
the-
questions
Oh,
that
command with
people
Katie.
ask.
Unless
Well,
Megan's,
and I mean,
Megan's
things
doing all the
mentioned,
onboarding.
Yes, okay,
And
onboarding.
then, command, like if you want to dive deeper
Yeah.
into command, Katie's
Yes.
sick this week,
And
but
so that's what I.
when she's
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
Just
that's what I
chip
thought.
away at
If
it.
you
Don't
wanna
try
learn
to
that, that's
overwhelm
fine,
yourself.
That's what
but
I
I'm just
heard, there's a
cleaning it up
lot
and
of
get
different
the
things.
That'll
water
get to be a
and
lot, for sure.
I would just bring it in to show you.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna, yeah, I,
So I would just partner up with somebody like that.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
You handle the seller side and let them handle the bank side.
yeah, and that's what, I've gone to a couple other real estate meetings that they've been, did some presentations. And essentially same, they said the same thing, you know, you bring the seller to us, or you bring them to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the ones I don't like, well, I think he's one of them, but they charge that money up front.
Yeah, 3,000 or 4,000, whatever, yeah, something.
And buyers right now, aren't gonna be able to pay that.
Right.
So there is one, I can't think of the name right now, but they calculate that in with their agreement with the bank, so
Mhm.
it's nothing on the buy
Mhm.
extra. So I'll get that name for you as soon as I can remember it.
Okay.
Jason Sanservano used to work for them. God's name was their name. Do you know, Ryan?
Who?
Who Jason Sanservano used to work for?
My closing.
Mike.
That was the company with
Yeah.
my closing.
So they do short sale negotiations. They're good.
Wow.
It was
Yeah, I mean, some of the people that I've talked to that have used these people, I mean, they've all said, and he's very upfront. He said, my goal is to help the people that have the situation,
Yeah,
help them out. It's not like we're gonna kick them out of the house. It's just, so that's, he's stressed up front. He said, that's gotta be your goal also.
yeah.
That, it's not like we're gonna take advantage of these people.
Don't
Yeah.
look at me, Ryan.
But-
I can change my own oil, rotate tires, and do other mechanical things, but I can't figure out how to work the cone binder. Dave doesn't know. We didn't know where it was. Yeah. I saw you judging me there.
We all have our own skills.
I wouldn't be able to do
Either, so it doesn't matter. Is
Might-
anybody else usually come to these? Should I wait a couple more minutes?
That's a good mix of.
Kind of get started with it.
Oh, goodness.
Juan's the one up there.
I thought somebody else was online too.
I saw Lindsay on.
Yeah.
Make it nice and intimate. Alrighty.
Did he have is there a printout? Did they have a printout?
Lindsay got one.
Yeah,
Did
Dave.
Dave have
Check with
enough?
Dave.
I'll get it.
Bring whatever's
Yeah.
out there in.
Yep.
Just in case people come in.
How you doing today, Mandy?
What's that?
Said, how are you doing
I'm
today?
good. How about yourself?
Doing good.
You've been good since Tuesday when you were here?
I have been. Been getting some practice with Op City and
Okay. That's always an adventure.
yeah, it's good. It's good practice. I kind of can see it for what it's worth, but as far as me kind of developing and learning script, I think it's good.
He can.
Practice your scripts. How come my packet's so big?
Yeah, yours looks like. a-
Doesn't
You got
look
Oh,
two
wait
of
a
them in there?
That's the one he handed me. What are we gonna?
Yeah.
No, mine
Lincoln
looks too fat.
You have a double packet?
That's what I was looking. I don't know how many pages are in that.
Uh,
Doesn't this look different than that
It
one?
does.
This ends at 69.
Oh, is yours single sided or double sided?
Oh, mine's singles, or
Okay.
double, yeah, so his is double sided. Okay. There's the answer. He does.
There we
have
go,
pages.
Bob's got it. It's figured it out. You guys have 60-some pages?
69.
Yeah. With all,
I only have 31.
those are just your,
I know, but I guess you guys have. I'm guessing there's no more good stuff, but they didn't really tell me.
yeah, this is in the packet with all the stuff in it. I mean, it's got the instructor
Hello.
notes
Can I sit
and all
beside
that.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
You want this one, Ryan? I can use my laptop.
No, I'm good.
Need one? Oh, yes, I'll take one. That one.
I'll be flipping through everything with the keyboard. I won't know.
I need one.
Yeah.
I had to run it for Lori. She was so
I
worked
gave
up
it
that
to-
she was doing
Okay.
something.
Sharing is caring.
Hey.
I can't remember which one.
Thanks, sir.
I called the last time we did this. That's when we were going from like 6 to 8 in the evening.
Mhm.
Somebody comes in, needs an extra one, everyone.
Awesome, thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh, this is a couple of them.
Oh, is that?
You just got more.
Just found out my printer is able to correlate. Yesterday I was printing something out with multiple copies and I just found out that my printer was actually able to correlate it.
Oh.
Wait for Andrea.
This has been the week of, the last 2 weeks have been the week of technology. Triumphs and trials. and tribulations.
What's your thing?
No, I had to get a new computer. So that started 2 weeks ago. I wanted to buy one. Best Buy didn't have the one I wanted, so Samsung had it and I'm trying to order it. Well, something happened on their website. I couldn't order it. And just one thing after another.
So you got it out of the box and powered on at least?
I got it, yep. And then as soon as I did that, my phone crapped out, so I had to order a new phone.
That's
And
a
if the
lot of
phone's not
ones.
only 6 months old, it's like, okay, so I'm transferring everything over from my old one to the new one.
Good, switch over to Apple.
I just.
Then you get all Mac stuff, don't you?
Yes, Scott is a big HP person and I always had to have HPs. Well, Courtney bought her own Mac for school. And in that time that she had that original MacBook, I went through 3 HPs
Yep.
and it's still working. But she wanted a Shashi one for college. And then I finally saw the light on my 4th HP. So
That's like the same thing. Every year and a half, like clockwork, I was getting new PCs and then I finally switched over completely. I still have my original MacBook, which is probably 9 years old. It works. It just got a little slower.
Yep.
And then they're much thinner and more convenient. So, but then when you get the new ones, even with your phone, you can Bluetooth it and it transfers everything right over. You don't have to do a thing with just power it on. It'll basically prompt you and you have your other one on, you pair it, and then you just walk away. And it's like the old one. It's pretty incredible. All right, guys, we'll get started. Thank you for joining today. We are going over lead generation and lead conversion. This one's a pretty important one. I have the book shift here. We're going to go into that following this class. We have another, I think another one of 3612.3, and then we're going to start doing shift. Probably give it a couple week break and then run into it. For the newer people, Shift is a book that was written back in, I think, 2008, 2009. And it was about the shifting market that was taking place. If you heard about it, or if you remember about it, I know I experienced it, Mindy definitely experienced it. It was a market that was just like now, 05, 07 was chaotic, crazy. All you had to do was show up and you were getting deals. 08, everything changed because of the market crash. That was a subprime crash. So, but you had to be more aggressive. You had to be more experienced. You had to dig deep. You had to understand how to lead generate and then how to convert those leads into motivated clients. And that's what Shift is about. It takes it down into tactics. But I think it's a good book to complement this program as well. So if you want the book Shift, let me know. We got plenty of copies upstairs. It's just about mindset, lead generation, lead conversion, and getting back to the basics. The great thing about nowadays in 2022, but also a negative, is that there's so many fancy techniques to lead generate. Everybody wants your money to get free leads. Sounds amazing, right? Well, you can't track that. You can't control it. they control what your money does for you. And you just gotta hope that you're working it and your return on investment is good enough. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of these programs are not. They're just money, there's a way to make money. Zillow used to be great with it. Zillow has since really changed their algorithms to make it a lot more challenging for people to make business off of it. So we'll get started in the lead generation. After this, I am taking over Deal Talk for Nita. If you guys want to stick around, if you have deals, if you just want to learn, Terrence, you're a blank slate right now, so absorbing everything that you can. If you have any deals that are going on that are challenging, anything that you want to talk about, vent about, I mean, we all have these special clients. That's the time to do it. So we'll follow that in. I know you got to leave, so we'll be, we'll try to jam up as much as we can into the short amount of time you're here. And then you can watch the videos if you need to. All right, so the first slide. We all know that one. Down rolls. All right, so this exercise, I just want to hear from, engagement's going to be key for me today. I just want to hear from you. I think if we're all talking, we're all kind of involved, it's going to make for a much better class. So exercise, like think about where you are today. What lead generation activities are you doing? Anybody doing any lead generation activities that are working, not working? Like what are you doing day to day to try to create business for yourself right now? Anybody want to share?
I've actually made some phone calls yesterday. I got on the phone, started calling some people in my database that I haven't talked to for a while. People that I've talked to at open houses that I haven't heard back from them. So I haven't gotten any responses because everything went in voicemail. And I've even called some people that I've sold houses or I was involved in on the buy end. Because they were both, they were all had houses for sale, but I haven't heard back from anybody as far as they were out, like she was from Hazleton. So I haven't heard from her since we had settlement, and I've been calling her, sending her messages, how things are going, how's the house. So at least I started doing that.
Did you track how many calls you made yesterday? After it.
I'll have to go back through and see what, because I also realized I had an issue with my database. I had to call Kate. We're gonna get that resolved next week.
Yeah, I'm sure Katie's still working, but I know she's feeling a little under the weather right now. But,
yeah, I sent her a message just to make sure. Are you able to talk right now?
Yeah. She probably did, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Katie's awesome. But so we're gonna segue into that conversation of tracking methods, because part of conversion is understanding your numbers up front. So if you made 20 calls yesterday and you got 0, I mean, that's 0 forms of business. Like you got stuck at the first step. So it's now, I need to make 30 calls the next day. So you're just going to have to start figuring out that point. And then once you get them on the phone, that's a whole different conversion conversation. That could be scripting and dialogue that you have to dive into. They're part of the shift in the lead generation tactic 4 is talking about finding the motivated. Like right now, it's more important to find the motivated. Before, everyone was always like, oh, like market's great. I know I can sell and make a boatload of money and I'll figure out the buy part. They were motivated because of the money and how quickly they were able to sell it. Now, the scarcity around higher interest rates and everything kind of stopping, now everyone's kind of taking their foot off that gas pedal. Like, I can wait it out another year or two. I'm pretty happy where I'm at. So you have to find the motivated in that. And that's going to come down to making the call. What else? So you said you were going to do something?
Yeah. So right now I'm being new. I think my first step is just telling everyone I know that I'm a real estate agent. So I've been trying to promote myself that way through like personalized messages of people that I know. And then I need to do some Facebook posting, doing the opposite to kind of get leads to that. I'm literally like every time it dings, I'm on it. So I think I've claimed like 7 of 10
Awesome.
So far. So that I've been trying to like work those leads, and then from there, working in the restaurant industry, anytime I have a chance to talk to a table, I'm like, oh yeah, real estate. So I'm just like kind of putting the word out right now and sharing my contact information.
That's perfect. A lot of people, their tendency is to be a little bit fearful about like having those conversations, or but real estate, everyone wants to talk about at some point. So just kind of finding that common ground, that conversation that can jumpstart it. But what you're doing is perfect. I always tell everyone's like, I don't have a database Okay, how many contacts are on your phone? That's a start. How many friends are on your Facebook page? There's your other database. Right there, you have enough names for the most part, and you can still contact them in some point. You have numbers in here, so that's your database. Those are the first names and numbers that should be going into your command database for yourself. And then you drip on them and you do the follow-ups, do exactly, hey, just checking in. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, I just got my real estate license, super excited, line with Keller Williams. Let me know if there's anything I can do if you're interested in real estate. So that's perfect. I like that.
Oh, and the open houses too.
Yeah,
Got 2 of them this week.
they're back. I mean, it's funny because now we're seeing everyone, I know Mindy had a few, but seeing how there was never open house opportunities, and in the last like 3 weeks, maybe, I feel like it, now everyone's like posting on the Facebook page, hey, open house, anybody have time to do it? So for the longest time, we never made it to Sunday unless you listed it on Sunday morning. So those are great ones just to kind of get familiarized with the home, get familiarized with having conversations with strangers, and then learning how to kind of, again, script yourself and the dialogue around it. So that's
You have a
perfect.
built-in market too. Mindy, we were in class, what was it, 2 weeks ago? You said about the open houses to offer them the FISBOs.
Yep, because one of the tactics for going to meet a for sale by owner is, hey, why don't you let me hold an open house for you this Sunday from 1 to 3? And
So
you
I
pay
did
my-
that and I got 3 listings this week.
Really?
Well, I worked it
Can I get
over.
commission?
So
on
what?
this?
No.
Give it over to her.
No, I got 4 kids and I'm a single
100
woman.
bucks.
I have
Um,
one, she's expensive. and I'm a
Yeah,
single
I got
woman.
4, I'm a single woman. So what
This
I'm,
sounds
my
like a-
point
a
point in that
repeat.
is you're a new agent. My point, I'm a new agent too. I'm
Okay.
4 months. This is my 5th month, but my point in
James is
that
a
is,
week old.
my point in this saying is that I moved from California, so I had like a 6-week intermission where I wasn't able to lead generate. I wasn't on the computer. I wasn't talking to anyone. I came to these classes and I learned from the people who are doing and thing, and Mindy's very experienced. She's very admired. So I listened to these people and she said that, and I was just like, I was making these calls and they're like, fuck you, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you want? Take me off this no
Welcome to
call
York
list.
County. That's what we did.
I've gotten a few welcomes
Yeah.
to York County. So I wasn't apprehensive, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So literally I was being invited to their homes, look at our home, but I also was not completely dishonest, but I came in on a buyer angle.
Mhm.
So when you call these FISBOs, that's for sale by owner, the acronym, you want to say, may I host an open house for you? It has gotten me literally in the door for potential buyers. It's gotten me in the door, like I said, 3 listings, really nice ones. And it's just like, you gotta have like a niche to get in because it's the Wild West, right, Ryan?
Mhm.
I literally feel like people are behind my back following me. Like even my workmate is like sniping things off of my desk, literally, and like my leads. You know what I mean?
1,400 real estate agents all wanting the same
Mhm.
stuff you want.
Yeah, so when you have these little classes and things like this that Keller Williams offering, take advantage because you will learn very
I love
quickly.
this funnel from me to you to you.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd still be sitting
Yeah.
on my fingers like, what the heck, I'm 6 weeks out of the game. I don't have anything in my pipeline.
And where did you
Good for you.
start with the FISBOs? Like, what was your starting point? as far as-
Well, I search for them. What I really do actually is drive around. And if I see a sign in the yard, I take a picture of that.
Mhm.
I also leave my card in the door.
Okay.
I've been leaving little gifts, Hershey bag kisses and say, be sweet to be your agent. I do all sorts of stuff.
That's
Child, I'm
pretty
not
clever.
kidding. I'm
Yeah.
not kidding, y'all. I do have 4
That's
kids. I'm not
perfect.
joking. But yeah, you just kind of gotta be one step ahead of the other guys.
Yeah.
And be in these classes and be in the office every day. That's my suggestion.
Carry that same energy, aggression, and mindset, and you'll be good.
Awesome.
All right.
That's awesome.
Anybody else
Bob, I
want to
didn't mean to
share?
leave you out, but you
No,
already got. you already got it.
No, thanks, but I really appreciate that. Mindy.
Anybody else want to share on some of their activities?
Oh. One more is like if anyone just says hello to you or compliments you on anything, like, oh, I love your shirt, that's so cute. Thank you. Like that's a lead generation.
Yeah.
Like that's your opportunity and always have your business cards with you, like always.
Did you get yours yet?
Not yet.
Thank you, brother.
No, that's your like number 1.
I'll check it.
I'll check.
Okay.
All right, introduction, why we are here today. Obviously, we want to increase the number of appointments that we get. So this is another exercise. I want to hear from you guys. What are you, what will make this a great training experience for you? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this particular class here today? Shout it out. So I can adjust
Learn
the
more.
curriculum as needed.
More.
I just gotta go back to the Opcity, because what I'm finding is you do get a lot of leads there.
Mhm.
And I was trying to watch some videos yesterday, but for the ones who aren't pre-approved, and you ask them like, oh, hey, that's our starting point. They're like, oh, well, I just want to see it first. I guess how to either come up with like a more concrete script to express like the importance of that,
Yep.
or even like some tips or techniques on how to just like get them to that point so you can move past. Because like right now, I think I've started to like kind of be like, well, right now we don't want to be in a position to where we go see a house, you like it, and we're not even able to submit an offer. I think it's better if we're coming into the game prepared. So just like,
So that's a great point, and I'm sure Mindy can help with some advice on that. But I always say, people don't want to be told what to do. You have to ask them and make them basically find the answer that you want them to tell you. A couple of techniques that we've used when you were doing the needs analysis, and we'll get into that. This was way back in my early boiler room training, but you always ask, and how are you going to pay for this home? Were you planning on paying cash, or are you pre-approved? Oh, no, I'm not pre-approved yet. And then you can kind of go into like, okay, well, do you have a lender in mind? Or if not, I have a couple great lenders that offer some great programs as low as 0 down. Like, you start, like, get with some lenders and understand the mortgage side of things. Talk their language that they want to hear. They want to hear free, they want to hear 0 down, they want to hear those types of like outside the box programs. Another one is, this gets a little bit more, but I want to be your trusted advisor. The last thing I want to do is show you a home that you fall in love with and you can't buy the home. How would that make you feel? And they're, well, I don't know that, like, sometimes they could still fight you on it. So at what point you need to, through the needs analysis program process that we're going to go into, you're going to want to build questions to find out whether you're comfortable with showing them the home or not. Part of shift is, again, finding the motivated. Don't waste your time with the people that don't want to do the process. You want to get them approved, because at the end of the day, that helps them understand how much money that they can afford per month, how much money they need to come to the table with. And that way they're looking at the right home for them. And that's what's important. Every once in a while, you can toss up a freebie to them, that face-to-face, like if they're fighting you so much and you're like, well, I can tell by the questions I'm asking that they're probably a pretty qualified individual. Set up the appointment, you can show the home, and then that's where you get that face-to-face rapport, that then you can probably have the permission to start asking those questions a little bit more, I wouldn't say aggressively, but being more direct with them on gearing that way. So use your judgment on that. Don't want to see you lose a lead just because of stubbornness. But if you kind of like pry, and they still kick back, but you get a good feeling that, like, if you're asking about job, stuff like that, like how long have they been looking? Do they own a home, or are they renting? Like, some of those questions can shed some light on whether or not you might feel comfortable with showing them a home based on their qualifications. If they're like, oh, I just got out of college, I don't have a job yet, and I'm living at home, you might want to let that one go. If you have 7 leads and you're working with 7. Mindy, do you have anything to add on that one? Like, how would you overcome that situation?
So I just say, tell me a little bit about where you are in the process.
okay.
And I leave them, I'm quiet for a little bit. Well, I'm just looking at houses till I find one, then I'll get pre-approved. Okay, well, just so you know, it's been a wild market. So I don't want to disappoint you, but just know when we go out to see a house, there might be 5 or 6 other offers coming in on that. So number 1, we need to narrow down who your lender is. And number 2, we need to make sure that you're pre-approved so that we have that letter. Like, case in point, the other night I ratified one. My lender was up with me because I knew the rates were going to go up yesterday. And so she was working to lock them in as I ratified. So I always explain to them that you need a great lender. It's going to work like you do, that's accessible evenings, weekends, whatever, because the speed of the market is still shifting market, but it's still different.
That,
So,
that's another point that she brought up. I was just thinking about rates changing. You could use examples that rates are changing pretty often. Everyone's hearing about it. I mean, the Fed just increased it again by 0.75 point yesterday. So what that does is that it can disqualify somebody from an approval they had yesterday. So it's important to be with the lender because, hey, maybe that 220 house that you were approved for yesterday might not be approved for tomorrow type of deal. So let's lock in, like, let's get your information into a lender. So that way we know we have all of our ducks in a row when you're going in. And if you love that house so much and you want to be first in line because real estate's very emotional, we can write that offer there on the spot. If not, you're kind of then going backwards. You're taking 2 steps back. You're talking to a lender, might take, I mean, later that day, maybe the next day, depending on who they're talking to get that approval. And at that point, it could be a lost effort. So.
And now, how did you, sorry if my questions are very beginner level, but how did you learn about the change rates when you said, okay, I knew they were going to change? Was that from your lender or like a internet source or?
I just listened to the news, like probably too much.
Okay,
And so with inflation, they have to find a way to make money. And
Mhm.
so if they tank the real estate market too much, I was on a committee at RAAC where we discovered that like $64,000 from each home sale comes into the local economy. So they have to be real careful with how they parse that out. But just news, or get with Andrew upstairs. I use Movement Mortgage. I had a relationship before Andrew came into partnership with the office here. So Andrew Parkins upstairs at Movement Mortgage, get with him, get his cards. He's got a whole team, so they'll be around for you whenever. I know Courtney, my daughter, has used Andrew because her clients have
And
been.
you still use Tammy?
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
use Tammy.
Which is
So,
what Movement as well.
yeah, but Andrew supports us here at the office, so we should support him. But yeah, so, and he's a wealth of knowledge too. And so he's going to be able to tell you what programs, different credit score, and you'll learn all this. You're drinking from a fire hydrant right now.
Yeah.
That's-
That's what I thought earlier.
Yeah.
You gotta slow down a little bit. There's so much and it's hard to absorb everything.
That's why real estate's great for me. It's ADD.
Yeah,
I'm ADD and OCD, so we cover everything, but in no particular order.
yeah, Andrew's great to her. I mean, I've used him for 10 years now. He went through the shifting market with all of us. He has a team of 4 people in there. They're in every day, nonstop. And this phone doesn't shut off after hours. Like, it's not, brick and mortar is good for the certain loans, but like after 5 o'clock, it's rare that you're getting a hold of him where you can reach out to him at 8 o'clock for approvals and he's gonna crank one out for you.
My people were super thankful because if we were dealing with a Chase, a Wells Fargo,
Oh, yeah.
name any of them, we would have gotten a response at 9:30, 10 o'clock the next day and not rate locked with a buy down of the rate the night before.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, Chase, Wells Fargo for another. All right, so next slide, what is lead conversion? So lead conversion is leads. Leads are ready, willing, and able to do business now. They're the top priority. You want to get them in your database right away, get that face-to-face time we talked about. That's important. And then everyone else is like the ones that you'll do business with sometime down the road. You still want to enter them in your database and set up and that's where Katie can help you down with command, like some drip campaigns, like touching on them every so often. So I've read some notes here and this was something that takes me back and I still do it to this day. I categorize leads as A, B, and C. A are the ones that are pretty much, if I find a house today, I'm rolling with it. Like, let's keep looking. I have a deadline that I need to seek out, whether it's job movement, family, something. They need to move. Like, that's A. That's top priority. You need to pour in everything you can to them and make sure you're readily available. B are the ones that are like, I don't have to move, but if the right home comes around, I'll definitely write on it. I got my pre-approval letter. Everything's in line. I'm ready to go, but I'm not actively going to be blowing your phone up because I don't care that much. But if it's something comes up, I'll like, so you're probably looking at like maybe a 60, 90 day tops type of buyer there. or seller. And then C is everybody else. C is the ones that might resist on getting approved, but you have their name and number. They're just looking, they're browsing. It could be a neighbor at an open house that just wanted to see what their neighbor's house looks like. But you have information, you have a contact. That's C, that's future business down the road. It could be that year, it could be 5 years from now, you never know. I saw a post Mike Jones posted the other day that it was right when he got into real estate, 2016. He was talking to these people and they kept like kind of backing off. They were like in and out. They finally chose to sell this past year and they made $80,000 more than they would have if they would have listed in 2016. So that's a 6-year follow-up process. So kudos to him for doing that, because most of us are ADD and we don't have that in our mind of like, we always chasing the next deal with the one that's A and B. The C's are the hardest ones. If you can master the C's, and you're gonna build a future book of business for you for life. I think we all can agree the best part of when you're in real estate is when you can just show up and you've been doing it for so long, people call you and you don't have to put your efforts in lead generation as much anymore. That's usually what, 10-year mark, give or take?
Roughly. I think the new people coming in that do it correctly, I think it's shorter than
Yeah,
what it was.
very well.
I started at a brokerage that didn't teach anything like that, so it took longer,
Yeah.
but.
So does the categories make sense? Does that help like you guys? And then, so Command has tags and I created tags A, B, and C. And you can tag them that way. Just make sure that when they move from one letter to the other, you adjust that so you can understand your follow-up system. Anything to add on those things? All right. So lead conversion is lead to appointment. And I'm gonna plug 4 conversations on lead conversion because we go back to what Doug or what Bob was saying earlier was about making contacts but getting 0 appointments out of it. Tracking is we preach it here at Keller Williams. It's all about tracking your numbers, understanding your goals and tracking your numbers. Without goals, you're kind of lost. You don't have a direct path. Without tracking your numbers, you're not going to understand how you're going to achieve that goal. So we have what we call the 4 conversations. Write this down. It's 4 blocks. Block 1 is your contacts. So how many contacts does it take to block 2 to get an appointment? And that's going to be your key first lead conversion method. If you are only getting 1 appointment per 20 contacts, how does that fit into your goals? How does that fit into how many deals that you want to do? Do you have to up your contacts, or is it more of a scripting conversion around what kind of conversation that you're having? There is then a wall. It's called a wall of value that goes in. You can draw a big rectangle in between or something. Wall of value is then where you're going to start making money. That appointment becomes a contract, whether it's a listing contract, a buyer agency agreement, a written sales agreement. That's your wall of value is what that's called. And that wall of value is where, again, that's where dollar signs can start being looked at as money in your pocket. And then the last one is going to be a contract or closing. I'm sorry, closing. So you have 4 conversations: contact to appointment. Appointment goes to contract, contract goes to closing. And those are the numbers that you want to keep track of. If set your goal, what do you want to accomplish in the first year? 36 deals, which is part of this, but 36 deals. Okay, how many then after your first month, you should understand how many contacts that you have to make in order to get an appointment, how many appointments do you have to hold in order to get a contract, how many contracts do you have to write to get a closing. And in the last couple of years, the contracts and the appointments and the contacts, the appointments and the contracts were pretty slim margin. It was actually the contracts, the closing that became bigger. If you were a buyer's agent, you were writing 10 deals for one person and you might get done 1 deal. So you had to start looking at how many deals do I have to write per buyer in order to get that conversion to get it to a settlement or ratified deal. I think the ship's going to take it back into the beginning. It's going to be much to your point. I made such and such contacts and I got how many appointments. And if you didn't reach your goal for the week of how many appointments that you wanted, you got to up those contact numbers, 100%. So that's back to the basics. For conversations, we use it in all aspects of real estate. Like I use it for my appointments of recruiting. Actually, we don't talk about it much anymore from a regional standpoint, but I still think it's one of the most useful tools to understanding and keeping track of your numbers. Any questions on the for conversations tool? And do you still use that?
I have to be better at it, quite honestly. And what I used to have for my team was dry erase boards for each of their desks. And then if we had the 12 months at the top, but then they had the hot, the ABC.
Yeah.
And that stayed top of mind. But there's also a chart somewhere. I think it's in KW. If I find it, I'll send it out. But when you're dialing and smiling, smile and dial, there's a place for you to click off like the number of boxes. So to hold yourself accountable, how many calls do I have to make today? How many letters am I writing today? You know, and how many texts am I sending out? Cross those off, because I have to make a list and see it crossed off.
Same.
Yeah, if you don't write it down, chances are you're not going to do it because it's not a task that you know needs to be checked off. It's in your mind, but it doesn't mean it's there.
Well, I want to say one more thing about that. Like when the people are mean to me, I always tell them, have a wonderful day. Thanks for talking to me. And honestly, so this girl was really rude to me. Her name's Jen. Like nothing badly about her, but she was like, I waited 2 days to call her, like I'm being courteous.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like rude to me. She's like, you're not on top of your game. I'm not giving this to you. I was like, cool, great. I wish you the best. I hope you sell your house at a high price. Like I wasn't even being an ass.
Yeah.
Like I was just being like,
Yeah.
okay,
Little
maybe
passive
you're
aggressive,
maybe I
but
meet you.
pleasant.
Yeah, but maybe like my thought was always like, maybe I'll meet your mom, like maybe I'll meet your ex-husband.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you should like, so don't be like, fuck off. But needless to say, this girl contacts me 6 weeks later and says, you were so nice to me. I thought about you and I fired my other agent because she's gotten older and she's not well. Will you please take the listing?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
even if they're
Always be
rude or,
nice.
yeah, always be nice. Like,
Yeah, I mean, and you never know. We all have bad days. So you catch somebody on the wrong day and they feel like you're soliciting something that's gonna irritate them. They're probably gonna give you a little earful because it makes them feel better at that time. But as they calm down, I mean, if it was memorable, you might end up winning it. So then that becomes a feel good. It went from I hate this business to, oh man, I love this business. And real estate does that to you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm thinking about other jobs, and then the next week you're like, this is the most amazing thing.
It's the bipolar express.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We all need
We're all
therapy.
like, whoa.
bipolar express.
Yeah, anyone ever off script, but anyone ever watch that show Billions on Showtime?
Yep.
Yeah, so you know how they have an in-house therapist?
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes we need to just have one in here that you can go to at any point and just like talk about your deals.
Isn't that what the second hour is supposed to be?
Yeah, that's what deal talk actually. I'm just not a licensed therapist. Get to know your leads. So this actually, my examples was actually much to what you were saying about somebody that doesn't want to get approved. To treat people the way they want to be treated. Andrea just gave another example. So you guys are sharing and engaging and getting ahead of it based on some of the slides in here, but treat people the way they want to be treated. No one wants to get yelled at. No one wants to get told what to do. And that's one of my notes here is don't tell people what to do. Come from a place of understanding. I know as much as you want to just give it right back to them, I have that personality. I know you can have that personality.
Depends how they come across.
Yeah, so it's you gotta just put it aside and then when you hang up, then you can start talking about it. But come from a place of understanding. Don't force them or make them do things they don't want to do. And we talked about the same thing with not getting approved. Like, well, sometimes and we'll get in, like I said, we'll get into the needs analysis process, but sometimes they just need to feel that pain of losing something because they didn't listen. Before that, they'll actually then take you they'll give you the permission to lead them in the deal. And And that oftentimes comes to the approval process. Once they feel that pain of losing out on something they love, and you kind of are like coming back to, hey, remember when we were saying, and this was the emotion that I tried to prevent, do you think it's time to get pre-approved now? And they're gonna 100%.
And I always use like the pleasure and pain script from
Yeah.
Bold kind of, but I'll say, so can you imagine, put yourself in in the seller's shoes and just think they're gonna have all these offers coming in, and then we're going to be possibly a couple hours behind. Will they wait for us? Maybe not. I just want to put you in the best possible buying position. So always, what he said, come from contribution, and I always do the other shoes.
Yeah.
Like,
When
You
Bold
might
comes
use-
around, I think you'll benefit from that 100%.
I don't want to go to work right now. That's what I'm thinking about. I don't want to go to work right now.
Oh, yeah, you got a little.
Yeah, I really don't want to go.
where do you work?
Just a couple minutes down the road at Stone Grill and Tap
Oh,
House.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Behavioral style. So this goes into some of the people that you'll work with. Dominance, like people that want to see everything now, that it's their terms, like they're gonna tell you what to do. Be an influencer to hurt them. I always use, sometimes I don't use the real estate term as much as I will always say that I'm a trusted advisor of real estate. It's a much softer approach to saying that I'm gonna be your trusted advisor and guiding you through the real estate transaction. Steadiness, like, so again, somebody that's not so much in the rush. They're pretty calm through the process. They're gonna more so just kind of really figure it out when they figure it out. And then the compliance, so the people that are gonna be more detail oriented, step by step, they're the ones that are probably gonna be approved before you even have to ask them. They're the fun ones to work with.
Real quick, going back to the 4 points, going from the contact to the appointment, should you try to schedule an appointment with like someone who's a A, B, and C, like all the, okay.
Yeah, so, and I have this somewhere, I mean, there's, I was doing some minor homework, but I was always taught if you didn't have an appointment, it was a failed contact. This was back before, I mean, I had a BlackBerry, and the way the leads came in was through email, through a call connect program. We would get 30 a day, and the advertisement was through Penny Saver Community Courier and newspaper. Like it was still during that. And it feels funny saying that like back in the day now. but-
Yeah, you're old now.
Yeah, I'm older now. But the way they ran a really tight ship, and it was, you call the lead, we had questions to ask, and at the end, you always ask for an appointment. And if you didn't get in the next morning, we'd go over previous day's lead. And if we didn't get that appointment, it was a failed lead, try again. And if it was a left message, you did it 3 times, then you can mark the lead dead. But that taught me habits and not like, again, continuously asking enough questions to create, because they're calling you
Mhm.
at that point. There should be no reason why you can't get an appointment if they're calling you. I actually, and I have it somewhere in this example, I had a townhome listing on Fairwind. And all I did was put a sign in the yard, did a couple little bit of advertising, but I got more drive-by calls from that sign, this was like 2 weeks ago, than any other sign I've gotten drive-by calls from. And a older gentleman drove by it, and he lives in the old Shadowbrook neighborhood, nice ranchers, probably a $400,000 house, 90 years old, still does his own housework, like yard. He's building these pillars off of his driveway right now with electrical lamps, like by himself, like doing all the masonry. Incredible, 90 years old, I would never guessed it. But I got the appointment. All he called was to see if it was pending, and I shared that with him. I started asking questions about what he was looking for, and I said, hey, why don't have you do you know what your value is in your home? Like I can come out and check it out and give you a no hassle, no fee, like consultation type deal. Yeah, come on out. So built the relationship with them, loved each other, handshake, and I have a name, number, email address, and he has value for me because he has a CMA that he's gonna hold on to. He now understands the process that he's probably a C buyer,
Mhm.
C seller buyer, because he's not in a rush right now, but it helped him understand what his value was, how much he needs in order to buy another house that he wants, and what he needs to walk away from in the process to do so. So, but had I never asked for the appointment, I would never got it, and that was a fail, then that would be a failed contact. They called me, I need to now ask the right questions to get that appointment.
If you think it's a first time home buyer, or this is their first experience, and that we've gotten away from this, but I want to get back to it, is I always like to schedule an appointment at the office
Yes.
to kind of sit down and take them through, here's the process, contract to close. I have a flow chart. I'm happy to share it with you. You guys can modify it and do your own, but here's what I work on through the process. Here's what your lender works on through the process. And then here's how you end up in your property. And while you have them here, maybe you have Andrew sneak downstairs and say, this is Andrew, our in-house lender, just wanted you guys to meet, and if you want, or gal and guy, if you wanted to connect and get pre-approved with him, sometimes if they can lay eyes on someone, they'll trust them.
Yeah, that was always the thing. We never met him at the house first, ever. Like it was always, let's meet at the appointment, go over some like basic questions of what you're looking for, and then we can go see the houses. Now, that was a much different, I wasn't licensed. I was working for a company that bought houses that I could only sell those. So that also helped because I was very limited. If they went with a real estate agent, I wasn't getting paid. So I needed to make sure that I got them well qualified and then showed them the houses that were on their needs list. And we never wanted to show them more than 3, because at 5, then you kind of, they get all messed up and can't remember the first 2 that took place. Like 3 at a time, as far as like, we're gonna go out and see 3. If they don't work, then we're gonna set some up for later in the week. But yeah, appointment if you can at the office, get them in your home turf, set up, have a process, a flow chart to explain, educate them, give them value in the meeting. And if Andrew's here or one of his team members, perhaps they can get approved on the spot, at least get the information for them in order to get that approval. So make it beneficial for them. Getting to know your leads. So this is, we'll kind of keep talking about, but building the rapport. Needs analysis. This good. I'll keep giving an example. So a needs analysis, I have their contact information, their call in. I draw a T right down the middle of the thing. What are your musts? What do you have to have? Your non-negotiables in a house? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Garage, lot, school district, all those like the basic questions. Price point. And then what are your wishes? Like what do you hope that has? But if it doesn't, like you could live without it. Pool, an acre lot versus a half acre lot, those types of things. Set those aside. That way, if you have those notes, you can come back to, like, if you find a house that has all those things and they still don't want to write on it, hey, I'm just making sure I understand correctly. This checks all the boxes we talked about. Is there something that you're seeing now in a home that you wish you had that we can move over to the must or switch categories? That's also helpful for you to have notes, because if you start working with 10 or so clients, you're going to forget who wants what. And then you can go back and say, oh, on this conversation, I remember these things were important to you. Do you remember? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you think it would be beneficial to send them like a questionnaire out prior to the meeting, almost as if like to give them homework, or
No,
why
they probably won't do it. It's just because again, then that lacks the engagement and relationship building from you two. So again, we're building rapport. So you should be asking those questions so they feel like, hey, this guy is really trying to understand what I'm looking for. And that's when asking questions, and then it's about that. At the end of the day, they want to buy something, they want to buy a product that you can show them. It needs to be about that. Anything else on that part? I know you got it rolling. I know you're anxious. And then communicate in a way that is meaningful to the person with whom you're talking to. So using common ground. One thing I always use, I want to build a custom fit plan that helps you achieve your goal. And this can be used in like whether we do recruiting or buyer and seller. The custom fit plan is what you find out upfront what is important to them. How do they need to move quickly? If it's a seller, is it about time or money? Is it for a buyer? Like, is it about the deal, or is it about location? Like what's important? And then you're creating a custom fit plan to help them achieve that goal. People like hearing that phrase a lot. So because it's more like not every buyer, every seller is going to be the same. So you're trying to create something that works specifically for them. Everyone, it's important to understand their goal up front in order for you to align with them and make sure that, you're being their trusted advisor in the transaction. Tips for getting an appointment. This was what we were just kind of talking about, just asking for the appointment. That I used the Fairwind Shadowbrook example. Being an expert in your market, another thing, and I've gotten a little bit lazier with it, but check every day. The MLS is your best tool to make you an expert in your market. Look at the new listings coming on, understanding what's coming soon to the market because we have that feature, understanding what went pending and for how much. Always looking at that hot list. It's on your dashboard. You can set it up for a 1-3 day, maybe even a 30-day setup. But looking at that every day, take 10-15 minutes. Just look at the new, look at the pending, look at the hot list, look at any changes that have happened, understand your market. That way, when you go into a neighborhood, you're like, oh yeah, I just remember your neighbor down the road sold for so many days for such and such, went pending at whatever the price was. That confidence that you're going to relay to them is going to be like, well, this guy knows my area. He knows the backyard. That's number 3, the confidence. You got to relay confidence. Don't trip. Try not to trip over your words. If you don't know the answer, I'm going to get that answer for you. Give me till this evening to call somebody or find out for you. And then again, have a list of questions to ask them. Basically, that goes back to the must-haves and the wants or the wishes. Just have a basic blank script of lists of questions that are going to be able to engage them in conversation, make them the focal point of the conversation, the meeting, and then 5, the biggest, most important one, listen. Don't tell, don't direct, ask the question, listen. Don't answer it for them. People like to do that. Let them answer it. Take the notes, listen. That's the biggest thing. And be okay with silence. Sometimes when you ask the question, depending on, like, rephrase the question. Let them answer it. Don't try to, like, if silence gets too awkward, again, let them re-ask the question in a different format. 6 through 10 come from contribution. Work alongside them, not ahead of them. Again, you're an advisor, you're leading them, but at the same time, nobody wants to feel like they're following you around. You need to be working with them. Begin with the end in mind, know their goal up front. We talked about that. That should be one of your script questions. Depending on if they're buyer or seller, that question can be formatted differently, but understand what they want out of the process. How soon do they want it? The financials, like, why are they moving is going to be important to ask. Why now? So you can then, again, custom fit the process around helping them. Seek the agreement, respond quickly. Communication is something that is the most crucial now more than ever with real estate because of the fact that these email, everybody wants it now. We are no longer a 9-to-5 agent. We were 9 to 7. We are 100% 20 hours a day, 7 days a week almost. Weekends go away. The benefit of those is that you can work remotely. That's the best part. The benefit of Keller Williams, and I see this all the time, is people are always willing to help if you are away, if you can't do showings. Like Bob's helped me a lot in Hanover, and there's always somebody willing to help you. But communication, and this is a question I always ask at the end of my appointments. Ask them how often they want communicated with, especially sellers. I have a seller right now. It's that little townhouse. It's like a format. I knew it was going to be on the market a little bit longer. So I said, how often and what type of style of communication do you want? Are you okay with text or would you like a call? even if nothing's going on, I want to make sure that I'm communicating with you frequently and to your expectation. Their previous agent who they fired was not, they didn't hear from them at one point for 3 weeks. Unacceptable. It should be at least every week, if not more, based on what their recommendation
That was a
is.
listing.
Yeah, that's that Littlestown, I don't know if you saw that one on drawing a blank on my address right now.
Louise Howe always had the office next to me, and every Monday morning she would go down and call every single seller.
Yep.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is Louise Howe. I'm calling you with your update. Here's how many people saw it online. Here's how many people came through in the last week. And this is a unicorn right now, but you get price reductions over time. So she would say, one more week, if we don't see an offer, then you always position that client to tell them what step is next.
Yes, that and great point. So with the communication, and again, when you're so through showing time, you can do a listing activity report. Puts it all together for you, graphs, how many people showed up, the feedback, gives it all there. So if it's overpriced and you had that conversation, hey, we're gonna start at this higher point. When I do a CMA, low to median to high price point, they choose high, and I just ask them, if we sell in the market at so many days or so many weeks, and we don't have a showing, or we don't have any type of activity, are you okay with having a price reduction conversation? Asking the permission for those conversations to happen. So you're already setting the expectation that it could potentially come up. But going back, it's all about communication. Understand their communication style. If you get some buyers and sellers, they don't like texting, so you need to be making a call. Database should also, like with command, you can get into that, set up tasks, weekly calls. It'll alert you, okay, reminder, call such and such. Communication is going to be everything. Even when you don't have any news, they still want to hear from you.
I'm so sorry to have to leave right now.
That's all right.
Apologize.
These are
The
recorded.
good news is it's recorded, so you'll be able to pick up.
All right, cool.
And you
I will
can
definitely watch the
you
rest
can
of
always
it.
come see me and we'll go through the rest of it wherever we left off,
Awesome.
if you want to.
Just know that I almost quit my job in this class.
That makes you feel great. I want you to keep making money. so
Yeah, until you get a
understanding
couple
that's a
closes.
process. You almost no share.
Yeah, no, seriously, I was like, all right, should I?
Aw.
Need to make money still.
We're getting there. We'll get there.
Internet inquiries, myth. Internet inquiries aren't any good. Internet inquiries aren't worse than traditional inquiries. They're just different. So I don't know how many people have probably done Facebook leads. Facebook leads are probably the most browsing people you can ever find in your life. But how do you turn that lead into a potential contact, potential sale? They're looking at houses, doesn't mean that they might be able to buy at that point, but if you can somehow engage them and getting some information from them, simple as name, contact, and a little bit of what brings them to house searching, they go in the database. Now you've created a lead out of that. If you let them go just because you think they're just browsing, looky-loos, like they're not doing anything, they're wasting your time, that's a negative mindset. You're not going to create a lead. Someone else will down the road. So internet, they're different, but they are still a lead.
But I'm hoping they take this class and they add the command element to it,
Yeah.
because there's so much stuff in that library for campaigns that I just need to focus down, because I have like 80 Facebook leads from ads I ran,
Yeah.
and I'm like paralysis of over analysis.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, and that goes into that contact conversion process of you're gonna get overwhelmed with it. And then sometimes if you get enough negative feedback or enough no's, or beat you down a little bit. But in the Facebook world, you can spend a couple bucks and get 200 leads, and you might only get 1 or 2 out of 200. That's a tough conversion, but you're gonna have to work through it and set your time aside and time block and manage on how you're
Still
communicating.
drip on those others. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're still gonna watch.
Absolutely. Getting the most from internet inquiries, so email responses, video email. This is BombBomb is, I've seen people come and go with BombBomb. It's like a little way of you can take a little video of yourself introducing, get the face to the name. And a lot of people will send that either in an email form or even a text message. And it's, Golly Bailey does it actually a lot. She'll just say, hey, checking in, just wanted to say hi, and that's it. Like, and we have a good relationship, but she uses that, and I know it probably is a blanket template to everybody in like a folder, but it's still, you're still gonna listen to that. If it's 7 seconds, I think that's what the average attention span is right now. People will watch it, they will. And then if they never met you and they see who you are, they'll be like, all right, now I understand who Bob Myers is. Free CMA forms. I don't love free CMA forms. Maybe if you give them like a little bit of a snippet, like a teaser, but I like doing that in the face-to-face seller appointment. Because then you can better, one, understand, because how many times have you gone into an appointment and your price margins are way off? Or how many times did you assume you knew, maybe based off records and what you could find online, but then you go in the house is completely different to what was shown on the public records. And you have to adjust on the fly what that value is, or it could go the other way. It could be trashed, hoarded up, like it needs $40,000 worth of work and you need to work it down. So I like to bring the CMA with me in an appointment and then make mental notes or make notes on the CMA. And then we talk about pricing, get on the same page, agree on a price. I write it, circle it in the value summary process. If you give a CMA and you're guessing and it's wrong, you just lost that client 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10. And then systematic marketing plans. I mean, this is, you can get as fancy as you want with this. We created, when I had the team, there's a launch program. It's an acronym. Joe did a lot of it, but describe what each letter meant that we would do for them. And that program was, again, this was a different market. So this was when average days on market was 45 days, maybe a little bit more. So we would say using coming soon, state of the art advertising and marketing as far as like pictures, you could do video, that kind of stuff. So we created that. We took it to every listing appointment, but we created a marketing plan for our sellers, for our buyers, that they felt that they had our best interest, or we had their best interest. Sorry. Any questions on internet inquiries? All right, the pre-qual. Sitting in the listing.
Yes.
Lead conversion.
Yes.
So consultation pre-qualifications, this goes back, we keep kind of covering a lot of these slides prior to, but this is understanding your client, your customer, and what they want prior to your face-to-face. That way, when you do finally have your face-to-face consultation, you know the client already. You already understand what their goals are. You understand what their wants, their needs are. You want to understand what's important to them. That way you're not taking that first face-to-face and you're giving them value at that point. So have your questions to ask your sellers. That's the next one, which we kind of talked about. It's basically get to know you questions at the end of the day. Where do you think you found the best scripting for questions? Bold?
I think the best scripting for questions, bold was good. However, I think when they do the script off at either family reunion or mega camp, they always have some kind of thing. And you can hear the real masters at a super high level role play with each other. I think that's valuable. I always usually hit record on my phone and then you can listen to that and internalize it later.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't try to recreate the wheel with these questions. I mean, there's always tools. You can Google anything. So if you want to Google it and find out common questions to ask buyers and sellers during a get to know you process, maybe you see some out of there that you didn't think of that would be helpful. And make sure you type those out, write them down, and make sure you have them easily accessible until you have them memorized, and it almost becomes autopilot. And that's going to take time and consistency around doing it. And part of the shift book is about being a master of your script and being a master of your dialogue and running the same consistency with it. Because at the end of the day, if that's what's getting you results, you want to stick with that game plan. You can sprinkle some other techniques in as you go and as you learn more, but you want to at least have the basics lined out before you start having conversations with your buyers and sellers. So again, questions asked sellers, question asked buyers. Any Andrea, Bob, any questions that really hit home for you that you always use every time you meet somebody, those buyers or sellers at this point?
I have a well,
Like, what's the first thing you ask them?
well, when I ask buyers,
Or sellers, either one.
what is your criteria? Like, I kind of use the jargon, like, what is the criteria for your search? Like, what are you looking for? But my question is, it's like, how do you get to find out if they're like real, if they're legitimate? Like, or if they're just like,
Two questions. I mean, a lot of times, like if they're calling on a house, what is it about this house that?
well, I
that
feel like I'm
interested you?
like basically looking for a needle in a haystack at this point. With like the offers being refused and like, I got really lucky this week.
Goes to the conversion. I mean, goes
Yeah.
about upping your numbers. If it's not getting contracts approved, try to find out with the agent, even ask them, hey, if I could have made this offer better, where would you have suggested I changed it? For the next time that I attempted, like for the next time they try to buy something, that way I know, and I want to be able to make it better. And I'm going to give them the recommendation, because buyers always want to know, what could I have done better to get this deal? And if it's pricing, maybe they're like, look, and that's usually in the highest and best offer. They always are like, what would you offer? What would you offer? And I hate that question, because I do not want to be put into a situation where I just spent their money for them and they didn't want it. I always say, put in the offer that if you get beat out by $100, you can go to sleep at night, knowing that you gave it everything that you had. And I would use that script a lot in this highest and best crazy market that we've had. Did that with Steve and Corey, because they loved Frock and they were like, we can't lose this, we can't lose this. What do you think? What do you think? And then through that process, you figured out some people were doing double-sided transfer coverage. I think they did that too. They were doing different techniques to help them, and that only helped you as an agent better yourself for the next time you write a deal. So back to your question, you gotta just ask more. I mean, if it's not them, it's the people that may not have helped you achieve that goal. Just come from a place of trying to understand. I mean, you said you did it with the clients that batter you anyways. It's like, do it with the agent. What could I have done better? So I know in the next time I can make sure that they get the next house. And most of them will help you. Some
yeah,
of them
Yeah.
won't.
And there are some scripts in here, page
Yeah.
30 to 40.
yeah, I keep these in my
Yeah, I don't
office
have all your
actually.
packets, so you probably have some of these things and probably.
No,
And
I
I
keep
have
all the scripts beside
A
my
couple
desk.
I've been working with now, I mean, I think there's 4 contracts now that they've lost out on. And it's the same thing, they asked me, what do you think? What should we price it at?
Yeah.
Like, what are you comfortable with?
Yeah.
I can tell you what other houses in the area have sold for,
Yeah.
and possibly what they had in their contracts, something to that effect.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, but then they're in a situation that, okay, this is the maximum price we want to go to, but they're not willing to do a transfer tax, pay both sides.
Well, then,
Like,
if they lose
yeah.
out and it's because of $2,000 or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, that's on them.
Yeah,
And
and that's,
And then as long as you did what you were supposed to do and you advise them what's been getting deals done, what you've been seeing. Not requiring them, just, hey, in the past, this is what I've seen help people get to the front. Like, I mean, that's an easy, like, imagine a FHA buyer 6-7 months ago. What kind of conversation is that when they can't go conventional?
yeah.
You give it a try because you have to.
I found it difficult with the Op City leads they were calling for a specific property.
Mhm.
Well, majority of the time, I answer the lead, start talking to them, okay, what property are you interested in? It's already under contract or it's sold.
But then
So-
your
so
next
that-
question should be, what about this property?
Yeah,
Was it the location? Was it the price? Was it, whatever amenity that it had that they enjoyed? And then that way you can be like, all right, so unfortunately this home's under contract, but I have a list of homes here that meet what you're looking
Mhm.
for. And when can we set up an appointment to meet and talk about it?
yeah, I think that's where I was lacking, but I tried to get that call, okay, what did you like about the property? Number of times it's like, well, okay, thanks. Or send me some list of properties. Well, what can we try to get an appointment? I'm trying to get the appointment. And a number of times it would be like, well, thanks, well, okay.
Yeah, and you'll get that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's somebody that's not that serious. They're browsing. And they just, I mean, that's, if you have a name in contact though, if you have a way of contacting them, C person, C category, fill it in there. If you
Yep.
ask the questions, again, that's why I was saying have like your top 10 questions. And if you go through them and you still can't get that appointment, they're still trying to just get off the phone with you, at least you have a name and number that you can follow up with. But if in those questions, they're like, they told you what was important to them, they told you what they were looking for, and they won't engage in an appointment. At least you know what's important to them, and you can kind of like make those notes, transfer them into the contact description, and I mean, we share stuff all the time. This guy's looking for an investment property in the city. I'm gonna send them this one. Like that, those are the types of things that if you're listening, and you're taking the notes and you're disciplined about the follow-up, you'll get them at some point.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you always gotta ask, are they working with a real estate agent?
Yeah.
That should be a note, some question that's guaranteed to be in there. All right, objections, barriers, anyone, we can kind of combine now deal talk too. Anyone has any objections or barriers that they're struggling with right now that maybe we can kind of discuss how to work through them. Yours are perfect.
I have a client who is an investor and she was interested in a couple properties. I took her to a property and I tried to get her to sign the buyer's agreement.
Mhm.
And she was like,
It's so
wait a
hard.
minute, why are, okay, what happens if we see some other properties? I'm working with other people. Because I've already asked her that question and, initially she said no. And now I find out a number of investors, they're going to be working with a number of
Yeah.
people.
That's
So-
a common thing for investors. It's a little bit, that's challenging because it's basically who can bring it in the deal the fastest.
Yeah.
They're leveraging. I think you can use that success through others line is that they are just leveraging out as many agents as they can because they have the better chance of finding a deal rather than one person that they're going to sign with that may or may not work exclusively for them in a way that is going to give them the results they want. That's a great question. That's hard to overcome that objection because that's how investors work.
Yeah.
With-
I even put on the buyer's agreement that any listings I send her,
wow.
that's what, I would hold her to that.
Yeah,
And she agreed to that, but she still hadn't signed it.
yeah.
So, she wants to go, there's a property she might be interested in. She'd like to go see it. So before we go, she's signing it.
Yeah.
Or, I've already taken her 3 places now. So before we go to this one, something's going to get signed.
So I have a question for you guys also. I have a really exciting buyer. They were gonna put a cash offer last week of like 650,000, which is so exciting as a new agent.
Mhm.
And so I had taken them on 4 or 5 homes. I didn't know they were a cash buyer until this day. I didn't get them pre-approved. I just knew the market they were looking at was very exciting for me. As far as like, I'm not gonna lie to anyone. I always have commission in the back of my head somewhere. So when you get the big number, I felt like I was like really catering not to get her to sell the buyers. But then my bosses were saying, you need to get the buyers. how would you handle that at this point now? Because I've been so letting them, showing them houses, putting an offer for them and things like that. How
What's
do
your
I,
question?
how do I
sorry.
get them to sign it without seeming like,
Oh,
oh,
your
wow,
buyer
I saw
agency
you have
agreement.
money. I saw you have money now. It makes
I
me
am
feel
probably the
cheesy.
worst one to ask this question.
Really? 'Cause I
I'm
feel
gonna
like a
probably
cheese
defer this
ball.
to the veteran in the group, only
Well, and
because.
yeah, I like what Mindy says, you
And
know.
only,
Yeah.
because
'Cause I
I
feel like
am
a cheese
the
ball.
worst one about getting buyer agency agreements. And
I'm so
yes, it
bad.
has burned me a couple times. Most of the time, my communication, my follow-up and always like working with them has allowed me to still keep them and be loyal.
That's very
If they
good.
go with somebody else, I usually screwed up. But that thing will protect you, especially now when there's a lot of Toasters around.
So that's what I'm feeling. I
I
feel
don't
like,
have the best
I feel
line
like I
for
would
that.
be a cheese
I
ball
know.
because they said hash, and I feel like maybe it's me overthinking, but I feel like in their minds, like, wait, you've been working with her for 4 months. Why is she now all of a sudden getting us to sign this paper? Is it because we let her know we have money?
So I might be the worst person to.
Oh, gosh, then I'm the worst
I
person
do
as well.
say-
I'm bad.
So when they said they were cash, I'd be like, great, if you don't mind, I'll just need a copy of your proof of funds. It's
They gave
typical.
me that, I had that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so
But-
that's
but-
good,
but
because
here,
no
I'm
one's
not-
gonna hand out their bank account to someone that they're probably not going to do business with. So I just say, listen, here's the consumer notice, I go over all that. I said, there's also another document, this is not a buyer agency agreement. I have a certain style of working, we either like to work together, but there's no sense in me getting married to you on the first date.
I used
And that's
that
how I-
before, like
That's
that.
how I say it. But I say at the point that you're ready to put in an offer, which will probably be soon, you will see that buyer agency, and that will go on for a
That's
period
good.
of 6 to 8 months.
Okay. I like
Because if
that.
I put time into you, you know, I hope that you know and appreciate how hard I work for my clients. Da, 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 da. So I'm not always the best either.
Well, but I like that because you're setting the expectation up front that, hey, here's the document. We're not gonna do it right now, but at some point, when we invested enough time and energy into each other, I'm gonna ask for this because, I mean, you don't wanna go to work. I mean, you can be like, you don't wanna go to work and work for free. Your
Yeah.
boss may or may not pay you that day. So that's kind of the same way that we have to treat
And
ourselves.
sometimes people think we get paid by our company. Sometimes people think we get gas money or a car per diem. And I just say, listen, I wake up every day unemployed. So I hustle and I work hard for my people, and either you know and love to work with me, or, you know, when you go to work, do you know you're getting paid? Yeah, I don't. So
I love
work
that
hard for
line. I wake up every day unemployed.
you do.
No, because
Yeah.
they sometimes they see us drive up or whatever, the way we dress or whatever it may be, and they have a misconception. It's like, well, I worked really hard to get here.
Well, and that's the other thing I say when I have the consumer notice. I don't know who you folks are. You could be working from the state and I could lose my license today. It's kind of how I make money and go on vacations and feed and clothe my daughter back in the day whenever. And I make it funny, but
Yeah, I like
informative
it. No, I
and
like
to
it.
the, kind of to the point, but.
Mhm.
That's perfect.
No, I love it.
But on a listing appointment or whatever, it's always interesting when you're like third or fourth person in and they've never seen that consumer notice before.
It's true.
I said, well, I kind of like to follow the rules, so.
Yeah, you gotta do that, because to her point, state always does typically send some people out and then everyone's pretty sue happy these days. If they feel like you wronged them, they're gonna try to.
When the
Call
government's
anyone and
dumping
everyone.
more money into Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, so the checkers will be huge. Like you can't get your license in 24 hours time, but they can spend hundreds of thousands of
Takes
dollars to
3 to 4
employ people
weeks.
to check you. Yeah.
All right, classifying your leads, get close to the end here. This is your course page 51. Determine how quickly you need to hold the consultation. Decide how much to cover in your consultation. This goes back to kind of the ABC categories. What to do to follow up and eliminate prospects who are not good business for you. So kind of breaking down what they are, like, again, when through your questions, like we go back, questions of your buyers and sellers, you can pretty much tell whether this is something that needs to take place, the meeting now or down the road, and then take a follow-up that has to happen. And then as far as how much to cover in the consultation depends on, also, same thing, with aligning those with your questions, as far as what their goals are and then what they want to accomplish out of that meeting. CMA, you go back to that as like an example of bringing that. If somebody asked for a CMA last year, and if you had their contact information, you can now reach out to them and see what their value, like, let's revisit that because homes have gone up a certain percentage per REAC stats. Like, hey, REAC stats just came out this month. It looks like homes went up again in this amount. I know we met last year. Would it make sense for me to come out and give you another market analysis to share with you? Determine what to do for follow-up, and again, go ABC and or asking them how they would like to be communicated with. Always ask, would it be okay to? And this is something that if you leave the appointment, would it be okay if they didn't give you anything, would it be okay to follow up with you in 2 weeks? And make a note of that. Would it be okay to, if I did this, get their permission to do it? Because then you just set the expectation, and then that could be a test. So you better follow up on it, because if you're like, hey, would it be okay to follow up with you in 2 weeks from Monday? And if they don't hear from you, that's probably, and they remember that, like me, I would remember somebody set that expectation. And if they chose not to do it or forget, and then I hear from them 4 weeks later, that's a strike. That's a minus point. I don't know that I can give that person my business. And that's something to think about, is like, if you're setting the expectation from them hearing from you, make sure you have some system in place that allows you to remind you to follow up with them as promised. Go ahead, Andre.
I was sorry to interrupt you. I thought you were finished with your thought, but what is that? Do you know from your training and circles mentally that when you ask them that? Because I've noticed that to change instead, I will call you, to asking them, does that put them in a leadership position, or what is it?
And actually, I forgot about the, I went through Sandler training. I went, I don't know how many people know about it. Sandler's still being trained actually by his daughter. It was Ed Staub who did it here. And it's kind of that seeking first to understand mentality. And then I say about aligning yourself with them, working alongside them, being their advisor and not telling them what to do. Everyone has different certain styles of training. If you do like Tom Ferry or Grant Cardone, like they all have their own type of way of doing it. This was a much more calmer approach. And I hated it at the time because I was 23 and you couldn't tell me what to do. It cost me $4,000 and I had to do it in order to work with this investment group. And this wasn't even CR Days. This was another one who is now my financial advisor. But you can always tell people, and Kate and Kayla took it and they absolutely loved it. You have to ask Kate about it.
Okay.
Now, since then, it's kind of gone up more in pricing and they've changed it, but the lessons they learned and what they got out of it was a much better approach to understanding a client and asking questions, would it be okay to? Again, people don't want to be told what to do. I didn't want to be told to go take that damn class, but now at 36, I'm like, holy shit, that was the best $4,000 I ever spent. Even though I didn't have it, I was happy that I invested myself in that. And I'm glad I did, and also because I'm a grandfather, to end up being able to go back whenever I want, where now it's a little bit different.
And tell me again, what is it
It's
called?
Sandler training.
And Kate took it?
Kate took it, yeah.
Kate B, right?
Yep, Kate Burgess.
Where is it, Ryan?
I don't know where their newest location was. They were over there by Stalfers. It was over there in Stalfers in like that 6th Avenue, but I think they moved since then. But yeah, that was where I got a lot of my approaches to asking questions and seeking to understand, which is key in sales right now. Determine what to do, and then eliminate prospects who are not good for your business. People are guilty of this, especially in your newer forms of business, where you force yourself to want to work with individuals that don't have the same core values as you, so to speak. They might push you to do things you don't want to do, that like every day you see their name pop across, whether it's a text message or phone number or phone call, you're like, oh my God, this person's calling me again. That's probably a sign you shouldn't be working with this person. Refer them out. There's plenty of other agents in here. Sometimes you're just not the right fit for a client. That happens all the time. But we get commission focus, we get commission brain, and we're like, I can work through it for the next 60 to 90 days. I'll figure it out. I need that $6,000 commission. But it will be the most miserable 60 to 90 days you've ever had. And that $6,000 isn't going to feel as good. And probably they're going to give you problems after the fact anyways. Sometimes it's best to push all that aside and refer it out. Determine who the right people are for you, who you want to enjoy working with, who you would want to follow up with after and get referrals with, and contact them every quarter or however you want to do your follow-up. Who are you excited to talk to? If you're not excited to work with them, refer it out to another agent for 20-25% and save yourself a lot of time, headaches, and stress. But we all do it. I probably still would do it even to this day because it's tough, but I hate to say it, but the ones we worked with drove me nuts. It was tough, but it's over. And I got 2 deals out of it. And we made money, so it was good. And they're good people. They just, it was just, oh my God. So don't be afraid to say no. It's always the other thing is that you don't have to say yes to everybody, that just because they have an approval and or a cash buyer. Work with people around you if it's not a good fit for you. Anything to add to classifying? That's pretty much it. Going back to you guys, what were some of your ahas, what were some of your takeaways from this class?
More follow-up. Definitely more follow-up.
The contacts, appointment, agreement, contract, close method steps.
And yeah, I think I need to sit down and think about how I'm reacting to the people and how I'm asking the question, I should say, and change how I'm asking.
And that will take, actually a highlighted thing. On top of this being a transacted knowledge and service business, our industry is a script and dialogue skill-based business. And if you have to get into the path of mastering the script and dialogue, and that you're going to make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. You're going to say the wrong things. You're going to lose business. Like, you're not losing business. You could lose some like contracts and qualified buyers and stuff. You'll lose more initial contacts because of not mastering it. But at some point, it's gonna you're gonna get better, and then you're gonna look back and you're gonna be able to then look at classes like this. You could be teaching classes like this on what mistakes you made in the beginning and then how you mastered them. And it's always about practice. A lot of it is, and you got to pick up the phone. I mean, at the end of the day, or you got to. Alberto is probably one of the best people in here right now that I can think of who's networking constantly any way he can. I don't know how he has the lunch funds that he has, but the dude is always like, if he's out at the grocery store, I guarantee you, and you walk by him, I guarantee you talking to somebody you never met before on real estate. It's crazy. He has no fear. He doesn't care about rejection.
Yeah, you have to not care about people thinking you're weird or whatever. Because like when I first met Alberto, I was like, oh, it's too much. But now I'm like, hey, Alberto, ¿qué pasa, mío?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it is, you have to, like Dylan Dills. There's just certain personalities, or like even Ashley Motter, like there's just certain personalities where it works. Like his works.
Well, and that another
just
thing,
works.
another statement I highlighted here, you have to be motivated to find the motivated.
Yeah.
Like, they're not gonna find you.
No.
Like there's, as I said, 1,400 of us. And why do you stand out from everybody else? If you're not motivated, it starts with you.
I think,
Right. Go ahead.
go ahead. How many phone calls do you make a day?
Not many.
I make
I'd
20
actually-
a day.
yeah.
And it works. Like Ernesto methods, or however methods you want to say it is, like, even if they like told me they're busy or whatever, I'll call them the next day. Are you not busy to, like, what are they gonna do? They're on the other side.
That goes, would it be okay to?
Yeah,
call you
no, no,
more?
no, I say that,
Or
I
what-
do.
Would it be okay, like,
No, I'm
what
not.
time,
Ernesto.
what time would it be okay, or what day would it be okay to follow up with you?
Well, what do you say, Mindy? You're,
What's this for? I'm sorry.
no, what do you say them in your brain? You say they're happy to talk to me.
They're home, they're happy, and they want to talk to me.
Yeah,
I came from bold, original Diana Kokoska era. Yeah.
I like that. No, I'm not like overtly aggressive towards them. Just like, even if they tell me they're busy, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you a call back, one's good.
Brian, how do you work with, this is a deal talk moment. So you submit an offer, they tell you to give till tomorrow, and then they're like shopping. They're shopping the deal, like they left the first one
The other
go.
agent,
Mhm.
actually, you know who just went through this, Greg Jean with, Justin, remember?
Uh-huh.
He said how he had all these showings lined up and he went into the showing time and there was nothing, like it was still wide open.
Mhm.
Um,
No, I had already seen there's other showings, so
oh,
there was definitely other ones, and while mine was the best, they cut the first offer, and then she was waiting for the others to come in. And so while it should have been 4 of us, there ended up, well, should have just been 3 of us, but then it ended up 5 of us.
and when they didn't, put a deadline or anything.
Didn't send anything out, just,
Yeah, that's tough. I hate that because,
I think it's, because I set my sellers' expectations of, we're going to give an answer and a deadline.
yes,
And,
but that's the professional ethical way of doing it. And unfortunately, not everybody works
Mm-hmm.
that way. And I put their name on a board and I remember them for the rest of my life, for
Yeah.
when this market turns.
This seems to be this person's MO, because I went through
Yeah.
this with another.
I would
deal.
say, I mean, all you can do is make sure your communication's in writing. And maybe ask like, hey, is the seller aware of my offer? And then do you have an expiration date on it? Like, when's your acceptance date
Mhm.
expire?
Yeah, I do.
Has it expired yet?
Oh, no, I ended up getting this,
Oh,
but
this
it's
is just like a how you
it's
handle
a
it in the future.
frustrating
Yeah,
process, because she's like, well, they saw your offer and they're aware of the other offer. And then I made a change to my offer, and she had several coming in. She's like, well, by 7:30. And, so you're out driving around showing other properties, and now you have to make a change.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you schedule that? Time is an issue for me sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could go into questioning like, what would it take for my offer to get accepted now? Or you just find out from a deadline perspective, like when can I tell my buyers to expect an answer from their seller?
I called.
I just want to be able, and I'm sure all of them have been in that situation, so you sometimes have to be like, put yourself in my shoes, I'm sure you've been there. If you have a buyer that's really excited about a house, knowing that they're against a bunch of other offers, the best thing I can do is communicate with them on an expectation of when we can hear back.
Mhm.
When do you think is a safe time that we'd be able to hear back from you?
Yeah, and at the
Um,
beginning, I always call when I'm writing an offer and say, so what is important to your seller?
Yeah, is it time or money? It's good.
Well, it's all about the bottom line.
Yeah, I know, they always give you.
You
some
give me any
lawyer
hints
answer.
as to like where you are,
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if there's some magic.
No, it's just, I mean, and then you gotta vary as much as you wanna get a yell and match with them.
Mhm.
Chances are then they'll try and make your deal not go through anyways. 'Cause
Yeah,
That's just how they are.
because your comment to me between the first one and mine was, well, I don't know this agent, but I do know you, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. And then your lender, I mean, like, all those things are important.
Yeah, I had
too.
the lender call. Okay.
I've won deals because of having apartments. I mean, because-
Mhm.
and actually what was nice about that was they also were buying their house that they were selling to my people with Hartmans. So
Mhm.
they knew all about, like, they felt super comfortable about that. And I don't even know that we were the highest bid, but I think it was just the overall package that they felt more comfortable with. But back to your point, I don't know, it's just,
I don't like
those
it.
days
I
are
get the
getting numbered
buyer-
anyways,
Yeah.
and again, that stuff will come full circle back to them.
Someday,
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Anything else to add for you guys? Wrap it up.
Cool, thank you, thanks for the keynote
Yeah.
swag. I'll be back. I'm gonna
Some
check-
more contacts. Use that, use the 4 conversations tool. I mean, just, I think you probably find on KW Connect like a printout.
Mhm.
Or a digital version, but that's a good way of keeping track of your stuff. Anything else?
Mhm.
No,
Yep, thank you.
always learning something, always.
What's your name?
Bob,
Bob, I'm unsure.
Bob
yet.
Myers, good to meet you. Yeah.
How long you been in this, Bob?
I've been licensed 2 years. I started right at the pandemic. Yeah, right when the governor, I was actually taking my classes when the governor shut everything down, so I couldn't do anything for a while.
Yeah, can't talk face to face with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, couldn't finish out my classes, couldn't take my tests, so I quarantined in my garage. And I had just listed a house. I was flipping a house, I just listed it that Friday and then, or that week, and then the governor shut everything down.
Okay, so you were in real estate investing before.
Yeah, Greg Jean was selling some houses for me that I was flipping.
Okay.
He talked me into coming.
There you go.
I took an early retirement where I was working because they
Yeah.
were getting ready to do a restructuring. It's like,
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
See that.
yeah,
Cool.
I'm having fun.
Good.
I get into a lot of different places.
Mhm.
That makes it interesting. And I
What's
do,
the average,
I
Ryan,
enjoy
what's the average
talking
amount of
some of the
homes in
people,
your
yeah.
literature cells in the first year? What's the average statistical amount?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I don't,
Yeah. Never
How
a
do you-
boring day. I'm just-
No.
yeah, I know, but oh, that can you use it?
Yeah.
I was
it's
trying
just how to overcome some of these.
I'm just saying, is there
You know.
sometimes where agents don't even sell one house or like?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
Oh, that's-
sure.
I had to go in, get some blood work and I started talking